You're not here by mistake. You're here because you're marked. This is not just another scroll on your feed, not just another message. This is a divine interception. Something deep inside you has been stirring, hasn't it? A quiet knowing. A feeling that you're not like everyone else. That there's more to your life than just survival. And you were right. Everything you've walked through, the confusion, the isolation, the nights you couldn't explain the weight on your chest, was not for nothing. It was preparation. Heaven has been watching, and now the signal has been sent. This moment is your spiritual confirmation. You're not crazy. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're chosen. And the fact that you're still standing after all you've endured, that's proof of something powerful inside you. This is your time. The shift has begun. You're stepping into alignment, into clarity, into purpose. And this message, it's the ignition. Let's unlock what's been waiting inside you all along. Get ready. The rise starts now. The moment clarity touched your spirit, a shift began to ripple through your entire existence. Doors you once walked through without question began to close. People started to pull away, not out of malice, but because they could no longer walk where your path was leading. The air around you thickened, the weight on your shoulders grew, and you found yourself wondering why resistance seemed to rise the second you chose alignment with your higher purpose. But this resistance was not punishment, it was proof. The intensity didn't arrive because you were failing. It showed up because something inside of you finally awakened. That sacred flicker that once stayed quiet began to blaze, and the forces that profit off of silence noticed. You are not invisible. You are not random. You are a bearer of rare resonance, a soul encoded with purpose that unsettles anything built on false ground. Challenge does not knock at the doors of those who have nothing to offer. Struggle does not visit the ones without significance. The pressure, the pushback, the unseen obstacles, they are all evidence of what you carry. And the deeper the resistance, the greater the calling. What has risen against you did so because your very existence threatens what prefers to remain hidden. When your heart is full of God's love, it's a sign to give. By tapping the super thank you button and offering $100 or more, you become a vessel of His grace. Your generosity can change lives, reaching hearts you may never meet. You have a divine purpose, and this act of faith carries His light forward. Give now, and may His blessings surround you always. But here's the beauty, hidden beneath it all. What came to undo you was unknowingly revealing you. Every opposition carved something eternal from within you. Every wave that tried to drown you taught you how to breathe deeper. What you thought would break you apart actually brought your essence into full view. The fire did not reduce you, it refined you. Your strength didn't arrive after the storm, it was always there. The trials simply stripped away the illusions that made you forget. You thought you needed to be rescued, but the storm taught you you were the rescuer. The wilderness didn't swallow you. It introduced you to the warrior within. You were not crushed. You were crowned. So now, stand in the knowing that you have crossed the line between hiding and honoring who you are. This is not survival. This is emergence. The hardship was never a signal of defeat. It was the echo of your unveiling. The heat you felt was not destruction. It was transformation. Release the bitterness. Let go of regret. Don't curse the dust that tried to bury you. It became the soil for your rising. You've been sharpened, not shattered. Seen, not silenced. Every scar now glows with the truth of your becoming. This is the beginning of a chapter written not in fear, but in firelight. You no longer shrink to fit spaces that can't hold you. You rise because the world needs what you carry. And now you finally see why it all had to happen. The unveiling begins. Make your impact eternal. Join now and be a light in someone's darkness. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. Isaiah 54:17. It's just like a tree planted by living waters. At first, it looks like nothing's happening, just stillness and soil. But the moment that seed breaks open underground, when its roots start to stretch towards something deeper, the soil pushes back, not because the tree is dying, but because it's growing. And friend, that's exactly what's been happening to you. The moment you stopped shrinking to fit places that were too small for your spirit, the moment you stopped watering dead things and started reaching for heaven, the ground beneath you started to shift. Why? Because something inside you came alive, something eternal, something holy. And when that happens, when divine alignment kicks in, resistance shows up not as punishment, but as proof. This pressure, this strange tension in the air, it's not just stress, it's spiritual confirmation. Heaven sees it, hell fears it, and your soul feels it. When you said, "I'm done going in circles," when you walked away from what drained you, when you said yes to the unfamiliar, even though it scared you, something in the spirit realm took notice. You stirred the waters, you woke up with purpose, and suddenly, the enemy who had you lulled to sleep had no choice but to react. You've got to understand this. Resistance doesn't show up to the ones standing still. It shows up to the ones moving toward their mission. That spiritual warfare, that mental fog, that out-of-nowhere rejection or delay, it's not random. It's because you've become a threat. Let me tell you something. Chosen one, you don't attract attacks because you're weak. You attract them because you carry weight. You're carrying vision. You're carrying authority. You're carrying freedom for people you haven't even met yet. Looking for purpose and peace? Hit subscribe and start the journey. And the second you started walking in that, everything that feeds on fear, confusion, and delay tried to pull you back. But here's the good news. It's too late. You've already shifted. You've already awakened. You've already said yes. The pressure proves the promise. The tension proves the turning point. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. And the ground shaking beneath you. That's not destruction. It's preparation for the harvest that's coming. Keep going. You're right on schedule. And that made waves. What pushed against you wasn't random. It was calculated. It was desperate. You've been becoming someone dangerous to systems built on silence, on fear, on complacency. The attacks didn't show up because you were failing. They arrived because your evolution became a threat. But here's what your adversary failed to anticipate. The tension forged you. The pressure sculpted clarity. The chaos didn't unravel you. It awakened you. Each hit drove your roots deeper. Each betrayal recalibrated your discernment. What tried to paralyze you ended up sharpening your voice. Every setback became sacred preparation. The storms weren't interruptions. They were part of your shaping. What tried to shake your foundation actually exposed how solid it was. You weren't falling apart. You were being redefined. You've walked through terrain most avoid, and you've emerged carrying something rare. That's why your voice breaks barriers. That's why your presence shifts rooms. You are not soft-spoken power. You are thunder wrapped in humility. And that's exactly why the opposition came so relentlessly. Not because you were fragile, but because you were fortified. The more resistance you faced, the more the higher realm equipped you. You were not weakened by the battle. You were elevated by it. What came to drain you only deepened your well. So let the scars speak for themselves. They're not signs of failure. They're proof you kept walking when others stopped. You didn't shrink. You didn't bow out. You stepped forward anyway. You kept building even with broken pieces in your hands. And now you've become what the darkness feared all along. A vessel of light that won't dim. A force of clarity that won't be silenced. A reminder that even when targeted, chosen ones rise. You didn't just survive, you activated. And now nothing can hinder the momentum set in motion. The opposition revealed your readiness. The pressure confirmed your purpose. What stood against you only certified your authority. You carry weight in the spirit realm. And it shows. There are moments when everything around you feels like it's collapsing. Yet beneath the surface, something sacred is being carved. The obstacles weren't aimless. The silence wasn't empty. And the pain didn't come to destroy you. It came to unlock the version of you that only adversity could uncover. Permission was granted, not to harm, but to form. Not every storm was sent, but each was allowed. And that allowance was strategic. What seemed like random friction was the chiseling of something greater. Strengths you didn't know you had began to surface. Capacities you never imagined you carried began to stretch. What looked like chaos from the outside was, in reality, a divine architect shaping foundations deep enough to hold greatness. Some callings are not born in comfort, but in obscurity. There are parts of your spirit that only awaken when comfort is stripped away. Hidden growth only emerges when ease is replaced by endurance. Sometimes it takes the cold of isolation to ignite the warmth of conviction. What felt like exile was, in truth, sacred excavation, digging through layers of identity to reach the truest form of who you're meant to be. And the weight of what's ahead required the depth of what you've survived. This journey was never about staying the same. It was always about transformation. The fire didn't show up to burn you. It came to refine the gold hidden beneath the dust. The trials weren't cruelty, they were the proving ground. If you're being called to influence, to carry weight, to speak truth, then you had to be built from something unshakable. And that kind of resilience doesn't come from theory, it comes from experience. Every stretch of hardship was a forge. The nights that left you raw taught you how to listen when everything was silent. The setbacks taught your feet how to find balance on uneven ground. The closed doors redirected you toward doors that were meant to carry your future. What looked like delay was design. What felt like loss was redirection. Heaven has never wasted a single moment of your struggle. If your heart overflows with divine love, now is the moment to let it shine. Click the super thank you button on YouTube and give $50 or more to help carry God's light to others. Your gift will bless not only your life, but countless others. You are part of His sacred plan. Your kindness may be the answer to someone's prayer. Share your blessings and honor His kingdom. May His grace guide you always. You are being equipped, not punished. Every breaking point gave way to breakthroughs. Every disappointment peeled off another layer of dependence on what was never meant to hold you. You were trained in secret, taught how to carry wisdom when no one was watching. These weren't wasted seasons, they were hidden classrooms. And while others saw ruin, the heavens saw rise. Now the shaping is revealing its purpose. You're not just stepping into opportunity, you're stepping in with substance. You're no longer asking for permission to be who you are. You've been marked by the wilderness, and that marking is what gives your voice authority. You didn't come through untouched. you came through transformed. Because you were never being broken, you were being commissioned. This is the version of you that knows how to stand when winds howl. The one who doesn't crumble under pressure, but channels it into purpose. The one who's ready not just for blessings, but for the responsibility that comes with them. You've crossed the line where excuses no longer exist, and now you carry the strength to build, to lead, to liberate. Heaven didn't test you to torment you. It prepared you to walk fully in what was always yours. The rising has already begun. Every elevation begins in the unseen. Before any rise takes form, there is always a period of hiddenness, a stretch of time where everything feels paused, unclear, and stripped of comfort. And while the world might call it stagnation, heaven calls it cultivation. What you walked through wasn't punishment. It was preparation, crafted in love. Separation wasn't rejection. It was recalibration. Being pulled from the noise, from the applause, from the busyness, wasn't a sign of being forgotten. It was the divine design of refinement. That quiet stretch where answers felt distant, where your prayers echoed back at you with silence, wasn't divine absence. It was the setup for something sacred. Growth began where recognition ended. When your surroundings felt barren and progress seemed invisible, something deeper was actually awakening. Layers that no longer served your purpose were being peeled away. Attachments that once comforted were being broken. Patterns that couldn't follow you into your future were being dissolved. You weren't being abandoned. You were being aligned. This was a time of reintroduction. In that raw space, without validation or visibility, you were shown who you are beneath the surface. Not the image others applauded, not the title you carried, but the real core of your being. The version of you that could withstand the silence, trust without evidence, and keep going with no map. That part of you was being strengthened. What seemed like a delay was a sacred draft of your destiny. This season removed every leaning post that wasn't meant to carry you. The spotlight turned off so your foundation could be secured. No crowd, no congratulations, just you and the presence that never left. In that solitude, heaven wasn't watching from afar. It was working within, teaching you to navigate by faith instead of familiarity, showing you how to stand steady when nothing made sense. Make your impact eternal. Join now and be a light in someone's darkness. It was spiritual resistance training. Each quiet hour stretched your spirit. Each unanswered prayer deepened your roots. Every closed opportunity redirected you to one that could hold your purpose. You learned how to move without clinging, how to believe without bargaining, how to stand when comfort was stripped away. Not just survive, but emerge with vision and resilience. This was never a waste. This phase gifted you with inner clarity, invisible authority, and a peace that doesn't come from outcomes. What you carry now cannot be faked or fabricated. It was forged. You hold endurance that can't be explained, discernment sharpened by solitude, and confidence built not from applause, but from persistence. You were shaped in silence to stand in strength. And now, you emerge with more than just survival. You emerge with substance. The hidden season didn't take from you. It gave you what nothing else could. Insight, maturity, depth. You've walked through the unlit path and discovered a flame inside that no storm could put out. This was the hidden chapter, the one that most never see, but the one that makes all the difference. And because of it, you're no longer who you were. You're anchored, you're focused, and you're finally ready for what comes next. There are those who simply move forward. And then there are those who advance through fire. If you're standing here now, it's because your soul withstood forces that were meant to silence it. You didn't just endure, you evolved. And every inch of your transformation was earned through moments most will never witness. This level of growth was carved through internal storms no one could measure from the outside. It came through closed doors that stayed shut long enough to test your trust, through seasons of isolation that felt like abandonment, through spiritual pressure that bent but did not break you. You carried weight others couldn't even describe, and still, you kept walking, and you emerged, not empty, but enriched. There's a different depth in those who've been tempered under silence, a different vision in those who've been forced to see without being seen. You didn't get here by accident. What you carry now came at a cost, the invisible training no platform could give you, the kind that forged not just endurance, but spiritual capacity. That internal stretching, that wasn't chaos, it was divine construction. You weren't thrown into the struggle as punishment. You were selected for development. The unseen challenges shaped a vessel that could withstand real purpose. Heaven wasn't interested in polishing your surface, it was preparing the foundation. Every experience, every resistance, every delay was the evidence of design. You were made ready in private before you'd ever be revealed in public. This next space requires more than charisma. It demands spiritual credibility, and you have that, not because of ease, but because of what you've survived. You speak with weight because you've been silent in the dark. You carry presence because you've stood where nothing made sense. You walk in authority because your roots were dug in places no eye could see. This isn't ego, it's evidence. Evidence that you're no longer who you once were, that you can hold what others would drop, that you don't just hope for impact, you embody it. There's no shortcut here. This wasn't talent. This was tested tenacity. Heaven doesn't promote based on image. It elevates those who remained loyal when nothing looked like it was working. What comes next isn't compensation, it's confirmation. Confirmation that the private refining wasn't in vain, that the inner recalibration produced someone trustworthy with more. You didn't fake your way through this. You didn't settle. You were shaped. And now, that shaping has positioned you for release. Not release from the process, but into what the process prepared you for. You're not stepping into reward. You're stepping into responsibility. What's ahead isn't about recovery. It's about rulership. Because only those who've wrestled in silence can govern in clarity. Only those who've been trusted with trial can be trusted with triumph. And you are ready. Not because you have it all figured out, but because your spirit stayed rooted when everything around you tried to pull you out. This is not your return. This is your rise. When the shaping is silent, the reward often arrives loud. There's a quiet strength in those who've stood through seasons of invisibility, who've stayed grounded when nothing made sense. That kind of faith, the kind built in shadows, isn't forgotten. It's just being prepared for revelation. If your heart overflows with divine love, now is the moment to let it shine. Click the super thank you button on YouTube and give $50 or more to help carry God's light to others. Your gift will bless not only your life, but countless others. You are part of His sacred plan. Your kindness may be the answer to someone's prayer. Share your blessings and honor His kingdom. May His grace guide you always. This wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about proving that you would remain right, right in your spirit, right in your posture, right in your pursuit of truth, when nothing around you affirmed it. The journey didn't unfold in spotlight. It grew in stillness. And that stillness held weight. While others celebrated surface victories, you were being carved out for something deeper. The kind of depth that can't be fabricated. The kind that only comes from pushing forward when no one is cheering. What looked like being passed over was actually divine positioning. And now, what was quiet is about to become visible. There's a shift happening, not because you need applause, but because the story God is telling through you is about to speak for itself. Everything that felt like rejection was actually redirection. Every doubt spoken against you was absorbed, not retaliated. Every lonely room you worshipped in, every time you chose trust over retaliation, every moment you kept going when quitting would have made more sense. It was all seen, not by crowds, but by the one who writes the final chapter. And now, that chapter is unfolding. This isn't exposure for pride. This is exposure for purpose. Not to parade what was hidden, but to place it where it can be useful. Your integrity through silence was louder than any defense you could have spoken. Your resilience was witnessed in realms you never saw. And now, it's about to be reflected in ways you never expected. Not to glorify you, but to glorify the one who never left you. The rise won't come as a surprise to those who've walked with the Spirit, but it will shake the assumptions of those who thought nothing was happening. This moment isn't revenge, it's reverence. It's not a loud, "Look at me," it's a sacred "Look what God sustained." You're not stepping onto a stage, you're stepping into alignment. And in that alignment, truth becomes visible. Not forced, not rushed, just undeniably evident. The elevation isn't a response to people, it's a response to obedience. Not everyone will understand it. Not everyone has to. Because it was never for applause, it was for assignment. Let go of who overlooked you. Release the need for recognition. Your rise is not a favor, it's a function. A reflection of a life lived in consistency, humility, and quiet faith. And now, the page turns. The world that watched your waiting season is about to witness your becoming. Not because you fought for the spotlight, but because heaven decided it was time for light to hit what you built in the dark. This is not the end of your road. It's the ignition point. The quiet stretch you just walked wasn't wasted time. It was strategic timing. What looked like the end was the entrance. This moment isn't the curtain call. It's the rise of what was once hidden, now ready to take its rightful place. The storms that came weren't there to erase you. They were there to sculpt the outline of something stronger. Every silent cry, every unseen choice to keep walking, when everything screamed, "Stop." Every hour of isolation, they all carried a purpose too big to fit inside your past. This isn't collapse, it's construction. What seemed like chaos was crafting your core. You weren't overlooked, you were undercover. And now that time has reached fullness, what has been forming in stillness is stepping into motion. But not through striving, through surrender. Not by force, but by alignment. This rising isn't performance-based, it's promise-based. The kind of rise that can't be manufactured, only matured. No one saw the internal earthquakes you walked through and still held your ground. No one knew how deep the shaking went, but you remained. And that decision to remain is what heaven now honors. There's no need to hustle for your moment. What is destined has been looking for you. Doors you forgot about are about to recognize your name. Connections will come, not because you shouted the loudest, but because your silence held weight. You will not rise empty. You carry depth now, insight born from breaking, authority born from obedience, Grit born from quiet victories. The voice you have now does not echo for attention. It carries healing. The steps you take now do not chase status. They carve paths for others. The work you do next will not just be seen, it will shift things.